Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. Hello, neighbor. Welcome back to another episode of That Witch Podcast and another step in our series of Elemental Magick with each other. If this is your very first time at That Witch Podcast, how special and welcome. I'm Danny. I'm That Witch Next Door. I am going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, your spiritual bestie in all things modern witchcraft and cosmic living. And we here at That Witch Podcast are embarking on a very sacred, very, very helpful journey into elemental magic, the very base, most essential building blocks of this type of work, and really in so many ways, any type of energy work, any type of manifesting, any communion and communication and interaction directly with spirit or our universe or earth and ecosystem around us. Really, ultimately, everything kind of boils down to the elements. These are some of our most universal concepts. When it comes to archetypes, this inherently known and understood concept, elements are some of like the deepest and broadest of archetypes, I would say. We start here in magical, witchy basics because not only are elementals energy going to be, I promise you, already so much more familiar to you than you think, most likely, at this point. This is also a really great way of building confidence and exercising and working with your intuition. Because the elementals are so intrinsic in us and our understanding, we are embodiments ourselves of elemental energy. And we witness examples of elemental energy every single day, all day long. Our dreams carry symbols that fall into the categories of the elementals. Anything can be boiled down to the categories and the classification or like system of the elements, whether that's the four elements like we are focusing on, the main four, fire, earth, air, and water, or adding into any of those elements as well, whether that's through spirit or it's that there's in different cultures, in different belief systems, there can be a little bit of distinction between types of elements and how they're described. But elemental energy itself is a completely and totally timeless and universal concept, which is what makes it so powerful, but so familiar to us on both a human and a soul level. And this is paving the way for a successful witchcraft practice. This is paving the way for successful meditation and crafting your own spells and spell work. Again, listening to and understanding messages from your intuition. This is also the entry point, in my opinion, into medium work and spirit communication and deity work as well. Starting with getting really familiar with the fundamental feel of each energy type of each element is going to set you up for being able to then distinguish the difference between Aphrodite's vibe and Lilith's vibe, okay? So we start here. It's kind of like starting at the primary colors in a lot of ways. You can think of the elements that way. So last week we did fire. If you didn't already listen to the fire episode, I highly recommend you pause this and go back and listen to that one first. I really do. I do recommend listening to them in order. I'm a wild card myself, and you certainly don't need to follow that like a hard and fast rule by any means. And I will say that knowing me and my style, we are likely going to build off of each episode from one another. So it's probably just going to feel and be most effective to listen to them in order. So pause here if you did not already watch the Fire episode or listen to it. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe or follow, because we release videos and episodes twice a week, most weeks, if not more. And this is a very, very magical neighborhood you have found yourself in, my friend. So let's see here. From fire, from the flames, we now step into earth. And honestly, earth is a biggie. This was a really cool one to prep for. I'm loving prepping for each of these episodes, by the way. I've got my earthy green Salem shirt today. I hope you're watching on YouTube. Shout out to my students in that witch school who made the trek to Salem, Mass. It was just the most amazing time in the whole entire world. I'm absolutely giddy. I'm going to be like this for a long, long time. And many more of these gatherings have absolutely been inspired. Oh my God, it's absolutely incredible. So I've got my green earthy shirt on. I'm prepping for the episode out on my back porch. And the only reason I was out on my back porch at the time that I was, and my episode prep fell to the patio because I was planning on doing it in the studio, is because of sweet little baby puppy dog here who... I kind of want to move the setup to show you because it's worth it. It's worth it. Oh my goodness. She's just the bestest little buddy. It's a lot of work to get her to be a good little sweet, quiet buddy, but it's worth it. It's worth it, all that puppy energy. Oh my God. Talk about magic. And speaking of which, so if you are new here or you don't already know the story, we named this sweet little black girl Angel. And she's got this big white patch under her chin to her belly. My daughter named her Angel. We named my daughter Blair after the Blair Witch Project. We're big horror and Halloween and all things spooky fans around here. And my husband and I were, contemplating, Blair had suggested the name Angel. I was like, so what do you think of the name Angel? And he's like, I certainly can't think of anything else. These were some of the other names I thought of. And he's listing off like horror movie characters. And I told him, I did realize that if we do name her Angel, we could say her full name is Angel of Death. And he was like, that's super badass. So that is her full name, is the Angel of Death. And sure enough, she shows her little beastly side a couple times a day. But she shows her sweet angel side most of the time. She has been this total representation of so much of my personal work with Hades, and just chthonic underworld type work in general throughout my entire summer and now beyond. Absolutely. And in very classic aligned with all of that fashion, I had full plans and strategy of, zip, zip, zip. We're going to breakfast, get Blair on the bus. We'll go on our walk. We'll, I'll get my coffee. We'll go record. And I had planned on going out on the back patio in the afternoon after recording. And she rang the little bell on the back door. And I thought she needed to go to the bathroom and she wanted to just go out there and lay and bask. And I was like, ugh. And at first I was like trying to like shift her around. I'm like, no, to keep her on my plan. And I just had that intuitive nudge from Hades, just what is the issue with doing this first? What's the issue with like changing up the order of things? And so I was like, oh, I guess that would be totally fine. We could just sit outside. I could do my episode prep outside, and I could just get a bunch of the stuff I was already planning on doing on the back porch during the afternoon. I could just do that now and record the episode later. Like it had never occurred to me to just switch up the order until she did that for me. And this whole entire story is a witch's perspective. This to me is, I take away an earth lesson here. This is a lesson and a growth point that was given to me in my deity work with Hades as a death witch. Hades is very associated with earth energy because the underworld is considered to be beneath, right? Subterranean. And this is also where like our precious stones and minerals come from. So Hades is also this, not just king of the underworld, god of the dead, but also god of earth. Anything that falls below the earth's surface, sub-earth, really. And very connected to Hades and to the underworld are the symbol of dogs. His dog, Cerberus, the three-headed dog, he was one of the guardians of the gates of the underworld. And I very much worked with our last dog, Toots, in a lot of my work with Hades. Her passing and all of my grief was a huge part of my work with Hades. And Angel is absolutely, right, this little angel sent to me, this little angel of death sent to me to definitely continue the journey, continue the path of learning. And as I'm preparing for this episode, I realized she brought me to the place where the episode prep needed to be done, which was the back porch in just the most beautiful September New England weather this morning. Like the birds, the slightest breeze, the sun is sunning, but you're not dying. The humidity is like at the perfect level. You're wearing the perfect outfit and amount of layers for your preference in this weather. Okay, I'm giving you this whole entire like visual to bring yourself into. And you are struck with so much inspiration. You're also struck with so much gratitude for the world around you. And it's incredible what this simple moment can do for you on this patio chair in the perfect weather, in just the right amount of light. And this, my friends, is the power of earth magic. She brought me directly to the place where I could feel into my interpretation, my personal connection to earth energy, so that I could prep for this episode and set you up to do the same. The energy in which I prepare every episode, every piece of content matters so much. This sets really, really helpful, good podcasts or creators or influencers or whatever apart from like these machines just cranking shit out just to crank it out. You might see plenty of numbers there, don't get me wrong. But this is why our community and neighborhood is so special in that witch school, but honestly, just our that witch neighborhood at large. Like you would just be floored by the people that are in our community here. And it really is because of how aware I have learned to become of different types of energy, and therefore can intentionally channel safe, welcoming, friendly, positive, but also effective and practical vibes here. And those are the types of neighbors you have in community here, because that's the energy and vibration that I bring in and send out here. And then the more and more of you that join our neighborhood here, the more that is amplified, and the bigger and bigger that grows. The way in which all of this takes place is in the elements. And when it comes to the physical, the real, the tangible, the smack your face right in front of you, that's Earth. So Earth, real life examples are some of the most obvious. We live on Earth. We're Earth beings. Everything we interact with physically is of the Earth, even if it's man-made, even if it's like a physical object. This got made by Earth beings. All the materials that went into creating this was conceptualized and crafted by, and then produced and submitted out by people and Earth beings, and done with Earth tools. Anything that is tangible is of the Earth element. Now, here's what's really fascinating. When I was preparing for the Earth episode, I realized that I had skipped over the sense that is associated with each of the elements. The physical sense that is associated with fire is sight. The physical sense that is associated with earth is touch, which makes a lot of sense. The sense that is associated with water is taste. And the sense that is associated with air is smell. Now, what's really fascinating is this would leave our fifth sense, which is hearing, potentially associated with the element of spirit, which I think is super fascinating and metaphorical, right? Like hearing and listening, like these messages and downloads we get from spirit. Anyways, now what's fascinating about Earth is, even though each of the senses is associated with each of the elements, the truth is that all five senses are inherently of the earth element. All five senses can provide grounding, which is an earth principle at its core. You can engage in the other elementals to achieve grounding, don't get me wrong. But concept-wise, grounding is the practice of earthing yourself. How's that for a quote? But it's true. Grounding is the process of earthing yourself. You're unearthing yourself all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you are an earth being in this life. We've talked about this in our grounding episode. Our grounding episode is actually a fantastic episode to listen to this week as you reflect on earth energy. We have to come back into our human selves. It's okay to unearth ourselves. It's okay to kind of unhuman ourselves. It's part of how we get the most out of our earth experience and like our human experience here. And because our physical form is an earth being, it's extremely important we re-earth ourselves. We ground and we come back into the present moment, into our bodies. So the senses, the five physical senses, are such a fascinating concept here, because it absolutely makes sense why each of the senses is associated with each of the elements that they are. And at their core, they're all earth. Taste, smell, all of these things can be incredibly related to the earth element. But I just thought that was some fascinating, spiritual, fun food for thought for you to mull over. So when it comes to real life examples of earth, literal and physical, first of all, literal and physical are earth concepts. But think of the most obvious examples that come to your mind right away when you think of the earth element. Go. I'll give you a second before I list the ones that came into my mind. Ready? Okay. Dirt, rocks, trees, flowers, animals, nature, the body. Like these were the most basic, obvious, upfront examples to me. There are so many examples, real life examples of earth, and I want you to start opening yourself up to them. Remember, just like last week, just like we worked with the fire element, we really dove into that and then opened ourselves up throughout the week. Okay, where is fire in my waking, real, experienced life? I want you to do that this week moving forward with earth. And it's, again, possibly the easiest one, probably. Everything is earth. Everything we witness is earth. And it's so it makes this really, really easy. But I want, when we get into our metaphorical or symbolic examples, that's when I want you to start like looking beyond the surface of other things and kind of seeing the earth element metaphor at its core in different real life examples. So yeah, all of anything that comes from nature, anything that exists outside, anything that exists nature made beyond man made, and all of that is earth. I also agree that as humans who are earthlings, there is also an argument for the fact that anything we create, like the earth element, is inherently present, because a guitar pick, for example, Jared plays guitar, if you guys are curious why sometimes there's guitars behind me and stuff like that. He's a musician. So a guitar pick, for example, this was not in existence at one point. It didn't exist formally. There was probably other types of things used for the same purpose before the guitar pick was officially invented. But there was a time that this was purely conceptual, and it was then produced and made into a tangible object. Even though we would say this is a man-made object, it's not of nature. I mean, it's obvious to say like where that comes from, and it's valid in and of itself. I get that. You know, when you're trying to get away from kind of the man-made and really get to the core of nature, of course. And at the same time, whoops. And at the same time, it's important to make note of this. And the reason is because if you're listening to this, you're probably a witch, or you're a person who works in manifestation or magic. And that is the practice of making the conceptual tangible. That's what inventions are. That's what man-made objects are. Inventions are this bridge between the air and the earth realm, this concept made tangible. Okay. So think about that. I want to give you as many seeds here to let them bloom and blossom as they will for you uniquely over the coming week. Again, I use that terminology and that description on purpose when I talk about my unique connection to earth energy and your unique connection and understanding of earth energy. It's really, really important that you know that everyone is going to experience earth, and there's that beautiful collective connective thread. And at the same time, we each have our own unique fingerprint, right? We each have our own unique perspective and set of eyes and 5 senses that we take everything in through. So I like to provide you with nice, solid foundation of just good info. But then I want you to open yourself up to that in your unique, special, specific part of the world and neighborhood, wherever you're listening to this. And open up to, where do you see the metaphors and examples of the earth element at work already in your environment around you? The more that you make notice of the metaphors of, how oh my God. Sorry, how the elements show up and are symbolized in your life, the more effective you will be in your own energy practice, in crafting spells, in communicating with your deities, in understanding the spirits or messages coming through for you. There's so many ways that we're opening up and listening in witchcraft so that we can do the spiritual speaking. This is one of the best ways to learn that spiritual energetic language. Open yourself up to the real life and the metaphorical examples of the elements at play in your environment around you. Okay, so some metaphorical examples I thought of is the concept we've talked about multiple times now, which is the physical versus the figurative. Make note of the things that exist and really exist versus the things that are purely conceptual. This is a helpful way of separating our earth and our air energy, which sometimes need to be like pulled apart and understood that they are separate things sometimes, because sometimes our air realm gets a little confident and makes us believe that things that are simply conceptual are absolute 100% real life, and they're not. There are things in our environment that we start thinking about and writing stories about that we start to believe are real life when they are not. So this is exactly why I want you to pay attention to examples of things that are physical and real and right in front of you, the things that really truly are conceptual. That is a form of earth magic, actually, is just practicing that distinction. Let's see here. Also, the concept of, and also the very literal experience of getting your hands dirty. So whether this is physically gardening, for example, or cleaning or scrubbing out or building something or reorganizing something, when you are hands-on, getting your hands dirty or hands-on, a real hard worker will work right beside you. All of these are earthen concepts and metaphorical examples. So when you see people doing this or those qualities within yourself, that is an earth trait. That is an earth quality. Also experience. This is so funny. So much of the earth element is very, very broad because it just exists so largely in our experience. Experience, I would argue, I guess I would reword that to say like carnal experience. Let's write that. Let's write carnal experience. The physical experience. We've got the mental experience, we've got the emotional experience, but we have the carnal experience. Carnal experience is of the earth element. So this is accomplishing something after being challenged. This is physically feeling embarrassed. This is those signs that your body sends you are earth, because your body is so connected to earth. Now, thriving, sacred, divine earth energy in the body, to me, looks like being at peace and stable and grounded, even if it's in one brief moment. The purity of that experience, of that at peace in the body with the self at the present moment, that is the core essence of earth grounding energy. Okay. But really, truly, sensory in general, when the body speaks to us and we respond to it by physically addressing it, this is earth. This is the element of earth energy. Listening to an ache in your back and doing something about it is an act of earth energy. It's caring for your body. Paying attention to how you eat, what you drink, how certain types of consumables make you feel, and then adjusting for your best, your best mode of functioning. This is an earth practice. We're caring for the body. Anything that is carnal, anything that is physically experienced, this is earth energy. So when you see somebody calming somebody down and bringing them into the body, this is the earth element at work. So let's talk a little bit about some astrology and some correspondences to earth energy. So first, the zodiac signs that are associated with the earth element are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. I do highly recommend going back and listening to our original episodes on the elements here on That Witch podcast. The whole purpose of doing this series is in a way to improve upon and continue the conversation we began at the very, very beginning of That Witch podcast when we first talked about the elements. But in those very first 2 episodes, we did some really good deep diving into how the elements show up specifically in astrology and the zodiac signs. So I highly recommend going back and listening to it if you would especially like to elaborate on the zodiacal energy connection to Earth here. Now, the planets that are associated with Earth in astrology are Venus, Earth, obviously, and Saturn. Just like I mentioned last week, for astrology practice, I want you to think of your placements or the placements you read or look at in other charts that you examine. I want you to look at them with their elemental label on the forefront. So instead of just an Aries Mercury, this now is this is Mercury, an air planet for me, expressing itself through a fire sign. Okay, so I have a fiery Mercury. Instead of a Capricorn moon, we're adding, my moon is in an earth sign. This very watery placement, the moon, which is very associated with water, is expressing itself through earth energy. So when it comes to watery emotional experiences for me, the practical, the pragmatic, the physical, here and now matter a lot to me. So putting that elemental label on the forefront of placements that you're reading, insanely helpful, especially if you've been struggling kind of bringing all the astrological layers together. You're like, okay, I have this Aries Mars in the 8th house, and you're adding it's hard to start putting all those layers together. Put the elemental label at the front, and I promise you'll already start drawing some more helpful, familiar connections into the energy of that placement and area of the chart. Now, because of this astrological information, the days of the week that are associated with Earth are the days of the week that are ruled by the Earth planets, which is Friday, ruled by Venus, and Saturday, ruled by Saturn. The season or the time of year that's associated with Earth is winter, which I love this. I think that this is fascinating. This is a very humbling time of year. The concept of winter is hard, cold, challenge, difficult. So much of what we celebrate as witches during winter is all about holding on to the light and holding on to the heat and getting through until spring and bringing that work and abundance of summer and utilizing it to last you through the winter. There's also a lot about healing your relationship with winter and leaning into the cold and finding ways to adapt. All of these are examples of that carnal experience. I think that winter humbles us. You know what I mean? Talk about a carnal experience. There's not a lot of skating through winter. It's a carnal experience. And you usually either love it or hate it or learn to love it. Maybe even sometimes you learn to hate it. And over time, the bitterness for winter grows. But if one thing is for certain, it is associated with the element of earth because it is such a physical experience on all of the senses. The time of day associated with the earth element is midnight, which is also associated with winter, right? The dead center smack dark in the middle of the night, which is what midnight is. And then the direction that is associated with earth is north. North tends to point us toward the direction of cold and more winter-centric locations, and temperatures, and I think that that's super, super. I just love all of that. So north is now with all of these different associations, you can utilize these to work with, notice, and honor the element of earth. So you can practice earth energy or grounding yourself or taking care of your body, for example, maybe on Fridays and Saturdays. Maybe there's this. That was something that for me getting sober, like I utilize Friday into Saturday now as like such a time for honoring myself and my time and the way I spend my time. It is a long, difficult, not nearly perfect road, but is one that I really intentionally work on. I used to destroy my Fridays and Saturdays. And then when I got sober, it was still hard. There was a lot of newfound gratitude that I had because I didn't feel like shit. And, I was this like such a more present and pleasant person on Fridays and Saturdays. But I also started filling that time up with other stuff, which is really, really common. Primarily work and housework. And I'm really actively working on utilizing that time for grounding, self-care, connecting with joy and pleasure through social relationships or hobbies during that time. Again, it is quite an adjustment and a learning process, but this is an example of working with the earth element, right? That caring for the body, caring for time spent is an earth element. Well, time is somewhat earth because we make it real and we abide by it, but time is also just a concept. So it also belongs to the air realm. That's a fascinating one. Anyways, you can also look at honoring the earth element by working with your plants at a certain time every day. Going on a certain walk when the moon is in a particular sign. When it goes into Virgo, changing up from going on the treadmill to doing a walk outside, no matter what the weather is, and embracing the element that is earth. Use these correspondences and connections and symbols of earth energy to inspire you to purposefully seek out, reach out to, and work with the element of earth energy. So to build on that, colors that are associated with earth, one might say every single color under the sun would technically qualify as earth because we see it in our nature experience around us. But in a symbolic way, the colors black, brown, green, and white are very, very associated with the earth element. Black and brown and green can be some of the most grounding, anchoring, stabilizing, centering colors. I love incorporating one or multiple of these colors when I need grounding, when I am in my fucking anxiety, or when I am in my fucking feels or just in my head and like stress about life and what I need to do and stuff, I really like wearing black shoes and dark pants. I like to wear green underwear, for example, like anything that is connected to my root chakra, my feet, what anchors me to the earth, and it helps really, really solidify that connection for me, provides a lot of centralization for my own personal energies. So there's a lot of ways to work with earth colors. Again, run with it. You do not have to limit it to these colors, but these do have very, very strong associations with the earth element. Like I mentioned, the chakra that is associated with earth is the root chakra, which exists basically in your reproductive organs and all throughout the bottom half of your body. And it's accessible through literally your crotch and also through your feet and your legs. So think about those points and how you can activate them in an intentional way. Now, pagan celebrations, seasonal celebrations associated with Earth are the winter celebrations, including Yule. And there are so many rituals. There are so many rituals, as you can imagine. Just the concept alone of comparing the literal to the physical or honoring the process, that sacred process of becoming the figurative into the tangible, that in and of itself is a beautiful form of earth magic. Watching and honoring something that transforms. So a really classic and easy practice, especially these days because we walk around with cameras wherever we are now, would be choosing a specific scene in nature that you can see very, very regularly, at least once a week or once a month. Every day would be cool, but not necessary, not necessary. So let's say it's a certain tree. Let's say it's a certain shrub. Let's say it's a certain shot of the sidewalk outside somewhere, a certain shot in the woods or the beach. It doesn't matter, but make it outside, make it be of nature, something that experiences Earth's seasons and change. And try to take a picture from the same angle, the same POV, regularly, again, anywhere from daily to weekly to monthly if you can, even if it is just quarterly. And start saving these in a specific folder so that it's really easy to go back and reflect and look. It's kind of like a little digital grimoire symbolizing Earth's cycles and sacred change. But seeing it with your own eyes will feel really, really cool. You can obviously take this a step further and maybe you each season you ask a certain tree permission if you can take a leaf and tape it inside your grimoire, and until you have a leaf that's from all 4 seasons. There's different ways to work with nature. You can really run with the nature example. Getting your hands in the dirt, working with plants, working with rocks, working with animals, and in so many different types of ways. Just working with people is of the earth element, working with other beings of this earth. For even more broad examples and inspiration points for rituals you can run with, of course, wearing earth tones like we talked about, especially through your shoes and your underwear because of your chakra points. Also, your home, your physical home. Hearth and home magic is very, very earthen in concept. This is caring for the physical shelter that gives you survival. any type of home magic in so many ways. And think about it, getting your hands dirty, doing the hard work, these fall under the category of chores as well. So again, this is all part of the earth element. So you can bring that intention with you when you're caring for your home. Oh, I'm working with the earth element when I'm doing this type of work, when I'm doing the mundane, anything that is the mundane, the daily, the routine, the responsibility of you as an earth being, you're working with the earth element. Anything with your body, exercise, fitness, dancing, movement, anything that uses your body to express or to honor your body or to give it freedom or to give it praise, anything that has to do with just directly connecting with you and your body, especially through movement, this is a beautiful form of working with the earth element. Crystals. Yes, there are different crystals associated with different elements. And just like the five senses, all crystals at the end of the day are associated with the earth element. So don't get too carried away with like, oh, but do I have a crystal that represents earth? You do, because if you have a crystal, guess where it came from, my friend? The earth. There you go. So crystal magic, any type of crystal magic, earth element. I love picking certain crystals and pairing them with my plants or in the plants in my garden. I find that they really, really naturally love and amplify one another, crystals and plants. Now, intentional touch, especially because touch is associated with the earth element. Intentional touch is huge and broad, and there's so much you can do here. Sensory, anything that falls under the category of a sensory experience. So intentionally selecting a shirt for the type of fabric that's on it and really giving a moment to like feel that. That is a form of working with the earth. You can also find pieces of fabric and go to the fabric store. Even like Walmart has a fabric section, and you can feel different types of fabric. Get a really, really small amount for yourself. You could also just hunt your house for this as well. And go on the hunt for different types of fabrics. If there's any way they can kind of become scrap fabric, you can clip a little piece from them. Otherwise, you can kind of just gather them for this one in the moment ritual. And close your eyes and one by one, feel. Give yourself like a full 30 or 60 seconds for each fabric item. Feel it in your hands, feel it on your leg, feel it on your cheek. Close your eyes so that you are as connected to the sense of touch as possible. This is wonderfully grounding. And again, also is a way of honoring the element and our connection to earth energy. You can also incorporate self-touch. Now, self-touch can range from sexual to asexual activities. This can be anything from masturbation and I almost said sensible. I meant to say sensual, and I almost said sensible touch. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. Anywhere from masturbation, sensual touch, pleasurable touch, all the way to just, this is touch that I enjoy. I like the feel of this fabric on my skin and this relaxes me. I like the feel of this fidget toy or this sensory toy and this helps me focus or whatever. So I like the feel of my leg this way. My daughter tickles her arm before bed. I'll tickle my arm totally as like a little stimming moment as well sometimes. If you twist your hair, if you play with a part of your ears, any of those physical little tweaks, especially with your body, can be this intentional form of self-touch. So again, this can range on the sexual to asexual spectrum, and the sensible spectrum, apparently. It can be as sensible or as unsensible as you would like it to be, or non-sensible as you would like it to be. But self-touch of any type rubbing your hands together, feeling the heat that you build, and then placing your hands on your heart or your belly or your legs or your forehead. This is another form of intentional self-touch. So you can really run with that one. It is a free option that requires no tools of any kind, and you can do it anywhere. So knowing your physical touch, like relaxing points or whatever, this can be a really, really big game changer, my friend. Sometimes for me, my ground, cleanse, protect ritual is most effective when I first rub my hands together, place them on my heart, and then kind of put myself and hold myself in a little bit of a self-hug while I do my ground, cleanse, protect. It's this really simple form of self-touch that makes that ritual way more effective in a moment that I really, really need it to be. This is the same concept as like EFT tapping and stuff, like body tapping while you're doing affirmations and stuff. Total earth energy coming through there. Let's see here. Touching anything, stones, grass, the earth, cuddling with objects or animals or other people, any of that. Earth. It releases oxytocin, the love chemical in our brain. So this is another form of earth energy. The gifts of working with earth energy, when we use intentional touch, whether it's those examples that I gave or any type of like with another person or object, like a stuffy or a certain pillow or a blankie or your pup or your kitty or your partner or your kiddos or whatever. Any type of that loving affection, that loving consensual on both sides affection is really, really powerful ritual. So this can also be another super profound form of grounding as well, my friend. And it's often co-regulating for the other person as well. So sex obviously also falls under this category of touch, of physical touch. Both because of the touch part and the physical body part, and because of the symbol and connection to reproduction. So the earth element is symbolized in the concept of sex in a multitude of ways and layers. So sex magic, in a lot of ways, is earth magic at its core. Fascinating, huh? All right, let's see here. Now, you can even go beyond this. Volunteering, donating, supporting environmental work, anything that helps the earth, picking up trash, tending to a local community garden, anything that physically helps the earth, earth magic right there. Even simply studying the earth itself, its inhabitants, its ecosystems, its patterns. This is working with the earth element. I could go on and on for probably hours with examples. And I instead going to leave you here, hopefully at a really inspiring point, because I want you this week to open yourself up to the energy of the element of earth all around you. Get to know what it looks like, what it feels like, what it uniquely means to you, neighbor. If you are with us in that witch school, we are keeping the conversation going over there after this podcast episode so that we can continue utilizing each other as these inspiration points, as these accountability partners to continue developing our witchcraft practice, to continue building and strengthening our intuition through learning more about elemental magic. We're going to be talking more with some prompts and some exercises over there. If you are not already over there with us, enrollment, my friend, is always open, and we have multiple tiers of memberships that you can select from to fit your lifestyle and your budget. You can get all information at thatwitchschool.com or in the show notes below. I would absolutely love to see you over in our beautiful community in that witch school. Now, until I see you next time, neighbor, don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions come up, if you have any ideas that come up from this, I cannot wait to see what this brings for you now that we've gone through fire and now earth. Next time we see each other for elemental magic, we will be getting into the element of air. And I cannot wait to see where we are then. Now, until I see you, my friend, I hope that you stay safe. Make sure you keep letting yourselves have fun. And of course, stay magical out there. What is That Witch School? That Witch School is my magical monthly membership that combines safe, welcoming, nurturing community with quality, ethical witchcraft and astrology education. This is like Patreon meets social media, but better. We have monthly calls hosted and guided by myself, as well as multiple instructors within our school. An incredibly beautiful and supportive community of like-minded witches, all built from the neighbors within our neighborhood right here. Plus, there is a just astounding library of resources and content that is always growing, and so much more. You can go back and listen to my episode on the podcast called Welcome to That Witch School 2025 for all kinds of details and information on the membership, the different plans you can subscribe for, pricing, and frequently asked questions, everything that you need to know. Or you can always send me a direct message or email if you ever have any questions. You can get my contact information in the show notes below. And when you're ready to join us, you can go to thatwitchschool.com and find the plan that works for you and join our magical community today.